What about BLM, Shaking Law Forever, on Black Lives Matter?
Do I have to be nice? What kind of program is this before I say what I got to say? I think they full of They are another group of people that have bamboozled, they have taken our history, is what they've done. Because let me tell you something about black folk. We don't believe in transgender. We don't believe in bisexual. We don't believe in abortions. We believe in none of that stuff. And it's a group of people that has taken our history and made it their agenda, is what they've done. And that's what they do to motivate or to manipulate society. When you control the most powerful people, you control the masses.
When we're telling our children, you're black, so you have to do this, or you're black, so, white people are going to do this to you. God also revealed to me that when you speak those things over your children, you're cursing them. You are speaking curses over your children because I, Christ, did not bring you into the world to see yourself as less than. I told you that you were more than a conqueror. I told you that you could do all things through Christ. You're reneging against what I have told you.
Whereas the Reverend Al Sharpton led a protest in the Crown Heights neighborhood and marched next to a protester with a sign that read, "The white man is the devil." Did you march next to a sign that said...
I have no recollection of that. I've marched in many things.
You have a shooting in the black community, and if somebody dies, Al Sharpton will be there. But he's made his money off of the backs of black people, right? Over the backs of black, death and everything else. It's just, you can't go anywhere in black America anymore because now the entire culture is built in the image of Al Sharpton.
It's a big discrimination against black within the black race itself. Hey, nobody wants to talk about that.
There's people I've heard in the black community have said some of the most racist, vile things. If we're telling white people they don't belong in this area, or they don't understand us because this is a black thing, or this and that. What if a white person says to a black person, "You wouldn't get this. This is a white thing." Imagine the uproar. We're walking around black power. Okay, well, a white person comes over and says white power. Imagine the uproar.
Terrorism from white supremacy is the most lethal threat to the homeland.
I walk outside every day in fear of white supremacy right here in the middle of the hood. Okay, yeah, right.
I never seen a white supremacy in my life. Never, and they can't point to one. Where the hell are they? I wish somebody would introduce me to a white supremacist. I would like to talk to them and take pictures with them because I never seen one in my life.
It never ceases to amaze me how expert the Democrat community is at race baiting.
And if Joe Biden, wants to go with that narrative, well, look at him. He is a white man in America, a straight white male, and he's running the nation where white supremacy is, according to him, rampant. So what does that say about him?
He will use these, moments to symbolically care about black folks. Like the kneeling on the floor and all those types of things that the liberals do. It is a symbol, but it's not actual policy that will help black people.
I am more likely to get shot by someone who is my skin color than a white person walking outside. That's just a fact in black America. When you ignore the facts to push an emotional agenda, emotional narrative, that's a president who seeks to divide us. We have a black vice president. Not quite sure what she's doing, but she's elected, right?
The United States has recognized the voyage of the European explorers who first landed on the shores of the Americas. But that is not the whole story. Those explorers ushered in a wave of devastation for tribal nations, perpetrating violence, stealing land, and spreading disease.
The Democrats are great at projection, and Joe Biden is one of the biggest racists that's been in our Congress for 50 years, and now he sits in the White House.
There is no one who has lived through the 50s, 60s, and 70s and can say with a straight face that America is a racist nation that is patronizing. And it also spits in the face of Rosa Parks and Dr. Martin Luther King. It also spits in the face of Malcolm X. Because if BLM, Black Lives Matter, Antifa, Hands Up, Don't Shoot, if they're right, then Dr. King, Rosa Parks, Medgar Evers, and even Malcolm X, they're wrong. My grandparents had a cross burned on their property. We were slaves in the past. We're free now. What we're seeing, and Joe Biden is perpetuating this, even though it's not Joe. Joe's just reading a script, in my opinion. What we're seeing is a theft of valor from those who actually were civil rights warriors. This is a man who eulogizes a white supremacist.
For a lot of us, he was a friend, and he was a mentor, and he was a guide.
It doesn't matter whether or not they're the victims of society. The end result is they're about to knock my mother on the head with a lead pipe, shoot my sister, beat up my wife, take on my sons. So I don't want to ask, what made them do this? They must be taken off the street.
He's like black people best friends right about now. He's our savior. No, I'm not buying that.
Black celebrities, but yet we're still saying we're victims. No, we are not. If we are a victim, it's because we choose to be. We are choosing that life. No one, not Democrats, not Republicans, no one will change our life. No one policy will change our life. We have to change our lives.
I'm going to tell you how we were raised. I was born in 63. I'm the last of the baby boomers. We were taught as black Americans, we have always had to work harder than anybody else. So it's in our DNA. We know we have to work hard. And what's holding us down right now is the media. Between the Democratic Party and the media. Those are the two threats, not to just black America, but to the entire world and to the democracy of this Republic of the United States of America.
You know, they called Obama the first black president, overwhelming number of people that voted for him. Where was the racism then?
The Democratic Party is running out of ideas. Quite literally, it used to be, it's the blacks. Now it's the Asians. Now it's the whites. Hate the whites. At some point, they're going to run out of things, which is probably why they're creating genders.
Right now, our community is being taught to blame everyone else for our problems. No way that we're the issue. Forget the fact that we're gunning each other down in the streets. Forget the fact that we're killing our unborn. Forget the fact that we are not telling our black young men and women that they can be anything they want to be. Blame America. Blame the white man. Blame everybody else.
When I was coming up as a young child, my mother and them would wait in line for hours for food. When my mom had at least 5 kids at that time, my mom and my father would work from sun up to sundown. My mother would go and iron clothes for people. And those winter days comes in, and it'd be so cold, and you got children to feed. We didn't have any gas at that time. We had things that we growed on the farm. So see, back then, we didn't blame a white person for what we went through with. I can't hold you responsible for 400 years of slavery. I can't do that.
The Democrat Party manipulates the African American community. They're very, very good at that.
The Democrats have always lied to keep black people in their party since black people became a part of their party. The Republican Party was actually the first home of the black vote because Lincoln freed the slaves and the slaves voted Republican. Now, the distortion came right after the death of JFK. Lyndon Johnson becomes president of the United States, and it was necessary to keep that type of momentum that just love JFK, just love John Kennedy, going for LBJ, who was not known to be a friend of black people coming out of Texas.
But I've got to prove that it discriminates, and I can't prove it in Texas. There are more niggers voting there than white folks.
Johnson's bright idea was, hey, let's then raise up, or at least allow that black mother who's having those children out of wedlock, or that poor white mother who's having those children out of wedlock, or that family that might be struggling. Let's offer them government assistance. They launched what was called a war on poverty. And the war on poverty actually turned into a war on the family. Because what happened was the government became daddy. And the government then, because they were daddy, they didn't want another daddy in the house. The lie is that it's okay. We'll take care of them. And if you have some more, we'll give you more money. Now we're seeing the fruits of it. We have planted those seeds 50 years ago. And the children of those seeds are now giving grandchildren to those seeds. And this is the amazing thing about it. They're believing the same lie. They're believing that more money solves social ills.
We'll give you free abortions. We will give you opportunities for welfare as long as you push the man out of the house, and we'll give the lady a check. They destroy and minimize our community. The African American community has generally received programs that suppress and minimize our growth, our population growth. So that's something very unfair that needs to be dealt with, in my opinion. That I left the Democrat Party was because I did not agree with abortion.
When you look at the black population being 12.8% of the American population, black women being, let's say, 7.5% of the American population, but yet they make up 43% of abortions in this country.
Our population is dwindling and diminishing, and it's very sad. You never know what we could accomplish if we could get our numbers up and focus on nuclear families and really building our lives. The Democrat Party kind of refuses to allow black people to do that, and that's why black people have to take the initiative and leave and turn their back on those policies. It brings you down. It really can destroy you.
And so I believe that Democrats have lied to the African American community.
The Democrats have used abortion. The Democrats have used race. And the diabolical duo of those two have seemed to converge upon the black community. You're being black and you're being murdered. Not by the white man. You're black and you're being murdered in numbers that are unproportional to any other abortion numbers in this country by your black mother. The most compassionate thing that I can possibly do is point out that we're murdering our future. Black people, that was not anything we did. When Sally, your cousin, got pregnant, or somebody in the family, a girl got in trouble in the family, we didn't kill the baby. You know what we did? All of a sudden, we'd send her to Detroit to visit with Aunt Ethel or somebody. And then Sally would come back home after nearly a year. And guess what? Aunt Ethel had a new baby. It was just amazing. But we didn't kill the child.
They are fighting to destroy Black America through abortion. There were 2 Planned Parenthood establishments within walking distance of my high school. I went to Planned Parenthood with an unplanned pregnancy. The nurse asked, did I want to hear about my options? My options were to have an abortion on Tuesday or Thursday.
Planned Parenthood, America's largest abortion provider, has admitted that their founder, Margaret Sanger, was a racist during her lifetime. She admittedly wanted to target the African American community for population control and reduction.
She started the 1939 Negro Project where she called black people human weeds that need to be weeded up out of society. And this is what the Democrat Party promote. Hillary Clinton even lifted up Margaret Sanger as her hero. And this is a genocide.
I admire Margaret Sanger enormously.
Margaret Sanger once said that she wanted to use the minister to come in and use them against the rebellious type that would, try to fight against her, because she said she didn't want word to get out that she wanted to exterminate the Negro population. And this is what the Democrat Party has been doing through Planned Parenthood.
There is forgiveness for all of us, for all of our sins. We have to remember that God is there for us. And so I want to encourage women to return to the Lord.
In the black church, the topic of abortion will very seldom be discussed. It is uncomfortable.
So my grandfather, Martin Luther King Sr., was rescuing babies from abortion throughout his whole ministry. That's rare for a preacher. The preachers really won't deal with abortion from the pulpit.
They see more people on Sunday mornings than a lot of our politicians may see all week. And they don't want the competition. And they don't want to have to deal with that, so they write these laws where they do what? They give benefits to the churches to stay out of certain areas. Don't come in the political arena, okay? And we will forgive the amount of money you have to pay in taxes. It's almost as if the government, the politicians, are paying churches to silence them. When the churches should back up on that and say, our true reward, our true payment comes from God.
And I was raised not to put my confidence in politics, but in God. One of my favorite passages in the Bible talks about the people crying out for a king and a ruler. And God gave them King Saul, but he said, you're not going to like it so much because you've got me. And Saul is not me, but okay, I'll give you a king. And then we had King David after that. And we had many kings throughout the Bible history. So God allows politics, and you can't really put God out of anything. However, you can try to run a government without God, and you'll find out that it turns into a disaster. I really believe that some of the most powerful books in the Bible, Romans 13, for instance, says, are you afraid of the government? You should be. Obey the laws. And that's the godly, God-ordained laws, not just crazy laws from people. Then you'll live well. Some of the best examples we have of Bible heroes have either been kings or governors. Daniel was a politician. Queen Esther was married to a politician. And Joseph, in the time of Egypt, became one of the most powerful politicians in his culture. God's hand on Daniel, on Queen Esther, on Joseph, is evidence that God is ever present, even in the political realm. So it's very appropriate to discuss politics, but to see it through a lens with God being in charge.
Jesus called out the Pharisees. He called out the Sadducees, which was the government under Caesar at that time in Israel. What he had to do was upset certain apple carts. He had to turn some things over in the minds of people who had gotten entrenched into a certain culture. What does that tell us? It tells us that there comes a time, especially to you pastors and preachers and you Christians out there, you need to hear me. There comes a time when you must stand up on principles.
It just seems that we are walking down a road where we're allowing liberal ideology to dictate what we do, and that's taking us farther and farther away from God. But this whole thought of having a vaccine passport, or that, the mask mandates, and you can't celebrate the 4th of July if you're not doing certain things, or if you don't get a vaccine. I look at a lot of these things, and all I see is the spirit of the Antichrist.